Hey, how you doing? Welcome to my yard sale, my channel. I'm David. I wanted to tell a kind of a strange story today because this is what I experienced over the holiday, and I feel like this might be able to help some other people. So I have never really recognized anxiety in the past. I've always been able to handle pretty much everything that's been dealt with me, and I've just taken care of things and gotten it done. Now, after this last holiday experience that I had, I'm realizing that all I did was treat my anxiety with alcohol, which, hey, I loved that. It was a good time. I enjoyed it. I didn't mind it at all. But I'm realizing now that I don't drink alcohol at all anymore. It's a little bit more obvious that anxiety is a bigger issue. So what happened to me was Thanksgiving came along. I'd given myself a little bit of a break. I'd gotten this nice little pecan pie thing from Walmart or whatever. I bought two of them. I bought one for Christmas and I bought one for Thanksgiving, back at Thanksgiving. I figured I would give myself a break and I would enjoy a pecan pie for the holiday. So I had mine on Thanksgiving and it wasn't too big of a problem. I walked a little bit, I worked out a little bit, and I worked the sugar off. Then Christmas came along and and I was having my pecan pie for Christmas. Now, right about that time, I ran out of the non-nutritive sweetener that I've been using, this allulose sweetener that I use for coffee or for any sweetener I use. I use non-nutritive sweetener, this allulose. Now, I still have sugar in my house because I didn't eat it all and I didn't dump it. I just don't use it for anything outside of, circumstance. Well, unfortunately, the circumstance came along. I had eaten a pecan pie, little pecan pie, and I wanted to have a cup of coffee. And I would usually eat I have a little bit of sweetener, non-nutritive sweetener, or a little bit of cream in my coffee. And coffee, I know already doesn't do me great as it is, so I just drink a little tiny bit of coffee. But I ran out of my allulose sweetener, so I wanted to sweeten my coffee. I put a teaspoon of sugar in my coffee and it sweetened it. It was actually much sweeter than I would usually eat it because I'm so sensitive to sugar now. I need very little sweetener to actually taste the sweetener in it. So I had this sugar. Within, I don't know, 8 or 10 hours, I started having major anxiety. By the end of the day, probably about 10 or 12 hours later, I had a laundry list of all the issues in my life, which quite frankly it's not that long, but it's long enough that it's an issue. And I started firing off emails to people about selling my house, cashing in on stocks or cashing in on, just cashing in on things. I started sending off all these emails, which were clear anxiety emails. And I didn't realize what I was doing, so I sent off all these emails. As the sugar passed through my system, my anxiety levels dropped way, way down really quickly. Like probably, I don't know, within 24 hours, I was back to the zero base of anxiety. I had zero anxiety. And I realized I sent all these emails, so I had to start making calls the next day. Hey, sorry about that email. It's not as big of an urgency as I thought it was. It was a nice conversation, but it was just really weird how I can associate now back to the anxiety that I've had over the years. I'll be honest, I just treated with alcohol. I would have anxiety. I would drink 2 or 3 beers and I wouldn't even think about the anxiety anymore. Of course, it was probably making it worse with the carbs in the beer, but it was just weird how I can go from zero sugar to having a teaspoonful of sugar with coffee, of course, and the anxiety level goes from 0 to like 12, maybe like 25 being a level of where I would need medical intervention or I feel like I would need to go to the hospital. Like 10 to 12, it was urgent enough for me that I needed to start firing off like crazy, insane looking emails to people that I maybe haven't talked to in years even. So I guess the purpose of this is if you're having anxiety, even if you don't know what anxiety is, if you're eating sugar, stop eating sugar for probably 3 days and see if your anxiety level just falls completely off the cliff. If your anxiety level stays up, yeah, maybe you should talk to somebody. Or maybe you should figure it out. But if it's sugar related, diabetes type related anxiety, it's easy enough to shut it off. Just don't eat any sugar for the rest of the day, the next day. By the next day, your anxiety level probably would be gone and you'd be back to, a borderline anxiety base. You wouldn't have anxiety. Or if you did have anxiety, it would be not crazy anxiety that's unbearable. I can think back to when I used to have this building on my property that it had a leak in it, and I knew eventually that the whole building would fall down. And I remember at night, I would listen to the rain falling, and I would have such immense levels of anxiety, I wouldn't be able to sleep all night. So I'd be up all night listening to the rain, just knowing that that was causing damage to this building that I had. Caused an immense level of anxiety, which I wish I would have known. I could have just not eaten sugar for a couple days, laid off the Pop-Tarts, laid off the Lucky Charms, and maybe not had some beer, and I would have not had the anxiety levels that I had. Now, I will say that there was a pretty high level of sugar and carbs in my entire family, and there was anxiety issues through the years that either got much worse or eventually resolved. I'm not even sure how they resolved, but eventually resolved. But I had never experienced the anxiety that the rest of the people in my house did. So I did experience that over this last holiday. And of course, there's snow coming and all kinds of weather crap coming where I live. So that adds a whole nother level of anxiety. But as soon as the sugar that I ate worked out of my system, my level of anxiety went back to 0, which I was obviously very happy about that. I was more happy to share this. Hopefully that I'll be able to help somebody else solve some of the problems that they're having with anxiety or just diabetes type related issues. If this is interesting to you, or if this has helped you at all, do me a favor and subscribe to my channel, or at least give me a like. That would be helpful. That would help me out greatly. So, treating anxiety with alcohol is a short-term fix. It's not a long-term fix. The better fix is to lower carbs, eat no sugar. I mean, if you eat apples, maybe that's different. That's about the only sugar that I get these days, eating fruit. But I really hope this helps. I hope this helps somebody in your family, your life, avoid anxiety issues that they may already be having or may end up having. The keto diet is a good way to avoid these type of anxiety spikes. Just eat meat and vegetables and fruit. And there's, of course, a million different people that are going to tell you different ways to eat that. But I eat just hamburger meat, I eat frozen vegetables, and I eat apples. That's all I eat. And when I eat that, I still sometimes can have some physical problems, but I don't have anxiety problems at all. So again, if this is helpful, give me a thumbs up. Hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.